So I had a lot of fun trying to assign star ratings. I'm going to start off by saying I'm very proud of my star distribution. I have 4 5 stars. I have 4 1 stars, and I am pretty even distribution across my 2 stars, 3 stars, and 4 stars. I found it to be a lot better than trying to go letter grade, and so I'll say that I guess Tom, this was your idea to tackle it this way. Maybe something that we continue to rock moving forward. So I wanted to begin at the very top. How many 5-star hires have you all identified from this cycle? Which, by the way, is pretty significant. 28 coaches changed in a 99-day period, and they were some of the most notable ones in all of college football. LSU and Florida, Notre Dame and USC, the Pacific Northwest Powers of Oregon and Washington, Oklahoma, Miami, Virginia Tech. It's a lot of programs that matter and matter in ways that we talk about the sport and in the ways that we kind of play it up. So when we review this coaching carousel, in another offseason activity is always to go back 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and see how those coaching hires and that coaching carousel look now with a little bit more perspective. These are hires that matter. Doesn't mean they're all going to work out, but they're all hires that matter, and I think that's what makes it pretty cool. So what are some of the? We'll start with the 5-star the 5-star hires in everyone's eyes. How many of them there were, and if there's any differing opinion on that.
I have 2 5-star hires.
Okay. So I was a little bit more liberal.
I've got 2.
Okay. All right. So what are the 2 5-star hires, Tom?
Lincoln Riley to USC and Mario Cristobal to Miami. I think that it's a combination of everything you kind of need for the gig and far as he's got coaching experience. We already know that. So we've seen him head coaching at different places. They are good recruiters. And they are good fits for where they are. I think Lincoln Riley's a good fit for Southern California, and we know Mario Cristobal's a great fit for Miami. So I think that for everything that you put on your checklist of what those jobs want, they accomplished it. So for me, those are the only 2 5-star hires this cycle.
I agree with that. So at 24/7 Sports, we do not take into account where the guy is going when we do our grades, right?
Yes, you do. Once they go to Illinois, you take a star off of them.
Well, of course.
Barton's already admitted to this.
Okay, Tom, we just try to match up the state tax with our ratings tag, right? So, it's just consistency's sake. But so if Lincoln Riley goes to USC 2 years ago with how USC was spending and what the administration they had, is that a 5-star hire? If Cristobal goes to Miami and they don't have, the Cristobal, as Tom noted on the last show. Danny, you missed this, but basically he's like, hey, Cristobal is bankrolled by all these crypto bros, so he's kind of Cristobal now, which is pretty awesome.
That is great.
So I think that I gave these guys 5 stars because they are proven head coaches. They're both really good recruiters. They both have shown good on-field performance, but also because that they have basically been able to name their price and say, hey, if you want me, you have to get this kind of big time spending up. And USC is doing that, just what we're hearing as far as what they're throwing out for the off-field positions. And so is Miami. So that's the reason I gave the 5 stars to Mario and to Lincoln Riley.
So you fall short. Were those your 2 as well, Danny?
Yes.
No.
Oh, sorry.
I had Brian Kelly and Billy Napier also as 5-star hires. So I had those 2.
Go ahead. So we have different group of 5 stars. So we have to we'll be 4.7 stars, I guess, on some of these when we average them all out. I had Lincoln and I had Brian Kelly as 5 stars. I did not have Mario as a 5-star. I thought you've got 2 coaches that had really separated themselves with a longer run of consistent success. And I still think Brian Kelly, I think he's probably the best hire out here, but the landing has been dicey, which and a lot of that's personality driven, and LSU is a funky place, and you had the accent, you had, the dancing, and then you miss out on that guy. Some of that stuff is just ancillary, but I think in the end, I think he's got the track record. He's won everywhere he's been. It's got to happen quick, but once he gets the buy-in, I think they could use somebody a little more disciplined like him. So I think I think Lincoln Riley, with the run he's had at Oklahoma, granted he hasn't come up in the playoffs yet, but I still think he's the run of success, I believe, is a little bit longer. So I'm a little bit more willing to trust those guys with a 5-star grade than I am with Mario or Napier.
Does Napier hit 4 stars for everyone?
Napier is a 4-star for me, as was Brian Kelly, and I agree with you.
If we're keeping track of like a show rating here, I can take Napier to a high 4-star rating. That was probably my last 5-star in.
I'd say Billy's a solid 4-star for me. Brian's a high 4. I just the only thing I dinged Kelly for is, and I think that what he did at Notre Dame was kind of, it's overlooked far too often by a lot of people, the job that he did and the consistency that he put together and kind of just the foundation he's put in place. But I just, like you were kind of hinting at, Danny, like the cultural fit. I just have some questions about how that's going to work in the long run. Maybe Brian, he'll adapt and he'll become, just a good old Bayou kind of Southern boy. But it's like I think of Brian Kelly, who grew up in the Northeast, spent his career in the Midwest, the Northeast, suddenly down in LSU in a place where he's not used to being. And it's like, I understand that LSU has a huge recruiting advantage in that state. And that's, it almost recruits itself in that sense. It's just, we talk about like Brian Harsin coming into Auburn and his ability to, recruit Southern athletes. I wonder about the same thing with Brian Kelly, honestly. So I think that there's going to be success. I think that there's a very high floor. I just don't know if it's a 5-star for me.
Okay.
Brian Kelly was the one that I really thought about putting 5 stars on. I will say, I'm against giving like grades to coaching hires anymore because there's so many things outside of just the head coach that matter, and you have to have the alignment. But Kelly, with the track record, to me was pretty close to being a 5-star. It wasn't quite as splashy, maybe as the other two were. And the other two are, I think, better recruiters than Brian Kelly is. Not maybe by a ton, but by a measurable amount.